Hi, sir. Thank you for doing this. Mr. President, between Middle East-driven energy shocks and a slowdown in infrastructure spending following the flood control corruption scandal, inflation, and a record low peso, it's squeezing Filipino households. What immediate measures will you take to lower fuel, power, and food costs over the coming year without widening the fiscal deficit?
Well, I think I mentioned several of these measures that we have undertaken in the last State of the Nation address, and that is to ease the burden of taxation to certain sectors of the economy, especially those who are paying less than 300,000, who are earning less than 300,000. The removal of the corporate tax on the MSMEs, the continuing provision of benefits for people. Now, you're absolutely right, because the growth rate is heavily dependent on public spending, and that has been delayed. And this is what really happens. Usually, when the NEP is issued, the contracts that are contained within the NEP are already bidded out. And so that when January 1st comes, the project can proceed. So it's a way of saving time and making sure that the project proceeds immediately. With what happened last year, where we had to re-examine the budget very, very closely, those contracts were not bidded out. And they were bidded out towards the end of the first quarter of this year. Kaya that is what happened. That's why it delayed the public spending. Now, public spending we have taken very many measures to accelerate the rate of public spending. And as of the end of the second quarter of this year, we are only at a shortfall of about 7% year on year in terms of public spending. We will make that up for the rest of the year, and so that the inflation rate, the rate of growth the GDP growth will show an increase because of the increase in activity. So this is what we are also running into, because we had, as I said, accelerate public spending. What we are running into very much is the absorptive capacity, not only of the government agencies, but also of the contractors. They can only do so much work. So you're throwing money at the problem simply doesn't solve it, doesn't make anything better. And that is the balance that we are trying to manage right now. But again, in terms of public spending, we are pretty much on current in terms of our scheduling. And we will be, again, I'm confident we will be able to catch up and exceed the year-on-year public spending by the last quarter of this year. And the effects of that will show in terms of the growth rate. And in terms of inflation, we had our core inflation at the beginning of the year was at 2.5%, more than 2.6%. It is only when the war started in the Middle East, and as you know, core inflation does not include fuel and food, and those are precisely the two commodities that increased dramatically in price. We were working with the price of oil before the war started, we were at about 72 and change, and now it reached about over 100. Now, when they say Brent crude is at 100, that doesn't mean that you can buy it at 100. You're paying 180, and that's the real inflation in those prices, and that shock was immediately felt in all of it, in all that we were doing. And it was not only the pricing that increased. It was also the supply that decreased. So the demand and supply forces immediately came into play, and that's why the inflation went up. That's why the inflation went up. Our headline inflation went up. because of those two, mainly because of those two items. Now, so that is why we, again, part of the public expenditure that I spoke about was direct benefits in terms of what we refer to as direct transfer payments, benefits. Like we subsidized our price of diesel. We put especially in the transport sector, we put them under contract so that every kilometer that they make, that they are running, they get an extra benefit from the government. So all of these things were really to try and bring those levels down. We are now running, our inflation went down a little bit in the last quarter by about 0.2, 0.3%. But we're still quite high. We're still at more than 6.3, 6.4%, depending on how you calculate it. So we are hoping that because the price of oil now, at least on the world market, is running in the 80s. It still fluctuates. And it is not so much now that the price that is determining all of that. It is because of it is because of the uncertainty that the price is becoming is so volatile, and that volatility erodes confidence, and that erosion in confidence means people do not spend their money because they don't know what is going to happen next month or 2 months, 3 months from now. And that is what we are having to deal with, and what we are trying to do with the economy is to bring stability back into our economic system, so that people, households, business people can plan, and in that way the atmosphere or the sentiment will be more conducive to investment and savings, which is what we are trying to increase. So we focus on those who were spending a large percentage of their income on precisely food and fuel, and those are the areas that we focused on. In terms of supply of oil, in terms of the pricing of oil, we provided subsidies, we provided incentives. And in terms of food, we were also very focused on keeping the pricing down. We lowered the tariffs on imported rice. We keep the program. We have expanded the program of 20 peso rice, and we are providing benefits now to 7.5 million families, Filipino families. So the usual calculation is to multiply that by 4 or 5 to see how many actual people are feeling the effects of those measures that we are taking. So again, it is we hope that this is not a new normal, that it will be like this forevermore. We are hoping that the situation in the Strait of Hormuz improves. We hope that the situation in all of the waterways that are being used to transport petroleum products are stabilized, so that we can now count on some assumptions that we can make so that we can plan on the national and economic development. So there are many moving parts here, many of them out of our control, but we are trying to be as agile as possible and to prepare in the longer term for the possibility of this happening again. So that, let us say, this particular situation is normalized, something else happens, like something like COVID happens once again. Then we have now developed many other options. We have approached what we refer to as non-traditional partners in terms of agreements, economic agreements, trade agreements, those that we put in during the onset of the emergency, and what we now are counting on as regular suppliers for petroleum products, for food, trade in general. That they widen the footprint, and the wider the footprint, the more stable the economy should be. In terms of the exchange rate, it is a strong dollar. The peso, we are trying to defend the peso, but it's not something that we are spending all our money on at all, by any means. And as you know, the dollar is usually regarded as a safe harbor during times of uncertainty, and that's why people have invested in. That's why the foreign exchange for the dollar value has increased vis-a-vis relative to many, in fact, most currencies around the world because of that. The strange, there's a strange phenomenon that we cannot quite figure out yet. Usually it's dollar and gold, the safe harbor, but gold's not behaving like it usually does. So that's not something that we bother ourselves about.